Hello, and welcome to another segment of the LPE Author Chat series. I am your host, Kimberly K. LaBoo, CEO and founder of the LaBoo Publishing Enterprise. This month, we have been interviewing guests, contributing authors from the soon-to-be released anthology, Women of Virtue Walking in Excellence. Tonight, our special guest is Tela Capri. She wrote the chapter, After the Weeping, Then What? Welcome to the broadcast, Tela.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, is it Tela or is it Tila?
Tila, like Tila
Tila,
Tequila.
okay. All right, that's good. I want to make sure so I call you the wrong thing the whole interview. So, what a powerful and thought-provoking title. After the weeping, then what? So, tell us why you chose that title for your chapter.
Well, I chose that title because that was one of my favorite scriptures was weeping for may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, and
Yeah.
that basically brought me through a lot of trials and tribulations.
Mm-hmm.
But being a young Christian at the time, that I went through quite a bit of I don't know life events.
Mm-hmm.
I wept a lot and really
Wow.
didn't know what to do after the weeping. All I could do was cry, cry, cry. And
Mm,
then, of course, after I got a little bit older, a little bit more seasoned, well, of course, after the weeping, you stand up and you
yeah.
fight and you
Yeah.
continue to live.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I chose that particular topic.
Okay, that's awesome. So, in your opening chapter, you wrote a lot about your childhood and the events and some of the turning points in your life. So, at the risk of sounding like a therapist or a social worker, I want to say, tell us a little bit about your childhood. Like, give us a little of your backstory because you wrote about that in the beginning of your chapter. And make sure you speak
Well,
up for us so we can hear you.
yes.
There we go.
Um, Well, in my earlier formative years, probably when I was about 2 or 3, I spent a lot of time with my godmother, who her husband was a pastor, and I spent a lot of times in my younger years there. But after I left there, I went and stayed with my aunt in Seattle, and she had 2 children, very close to my cousin. I actually called her my sister,
Yeah.
because we grew up together most of my younger years. And so I stayed with them probably from the time I was 6, maybe until 10 when my aunt passed. And so that was
Mm,
very devastating for me as a child. Um, and I ended up after she passed, and I didn't understand passing. I just knew that there was a void in my life,
mm,
and a hurt in my heart.
mm.
I went to live with my mom, who had recently got married, and I had 6 other siblings.
Wow.
So I went from being like
Yeah.
basically an only child, because my both my cousins were grown and out of the house by then. So I basically went into um, a very difficult situation and had to figure out
Mm.
where my place was in this household.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yes, I read all about that in your chapter, and it's like, whoa.
Yes.
So we're going to fast forward you to 18, because that was the next part in your chapter that you wrote about. Um, so you wrote, I married at 18, had my first child in that same year. I met my children's father in my senior year and just knew I would have the life of a little yellow house with the picket fences and we would live happily ever after. Don't we all think that in the beginning? But you said
Yes.
after my second daughter was born, things went downhill in my marriage, and what I thought was a perfect life was not. So you ended up in a abusive relationship, and so you wrote, "I remember fighting and fearing death at the same time." I thought that was such a gripping statement. You said, I realized that I was holding my daughter in my arms and my husband was fighting me. Something triggered inside of me. most likely my motherly instinct. At that very moment, I realized that either I was going to die or he was going to die. You said my children deserve better, and I was the only one who could make that happen. God blessed me to have the courage and the strength and the mind to leave and not look back. So, talk about the courage to walk away. What does that look like?
That was very difficult. Number one, I wasn't raised around domestic violence and turmoil and all of that type of negative energy, and so this was new to me. And at first, it was like, oh, what just happened?
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And so I had turmoil within myself because um, my mom really wasn't happy with who I married, so I would kind of have to eat crow, and
yeah.
I was just conflicted
Mhm.
within myself. But I knew that I couldn't continue to live like that, um, and so because of my faith, um, I drew strength from the Word of God, and I drew strength from the people around me and my supports. That gave me the courage to get up and walk away, um, from something to nothing, and just start over with nothing, no home, no job, nothing.
Mm,
So that was new to me because I come from a household where my mom and my dad um, both worked and made very good money.
yeah,
So I was going into a situation where I did the unknown, basically, and I had to
yeah.
trust God, and that's all I could do.
Mm, yeah. You said, let's see, the next 6 months. So that's what you talked about next. You said the next 6 months after I left my husband, it seemed like my life was compounded with more disappointment. I moved with my girls and myself into our own apartment after staying with friends. I was not used to standing in welfare lines and asking for help. My mother would always say, I have never had a day on welfare. I've raised all 8 of you while working hard. You said you felt ashamed and embarrassed. And then to make things worse, you were diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and all you could do was cry. You said, I saw my future flash before me. Prayers and tears, day and night, were my routine forever, it seemed. But then you said, joy finally came in the morning. So, talk to us about the joy.
After being a young mom and being diagnosed with cancer, when you hear cancer, it's just like almost a death sentence. And
Yeah.
back there in the late 70s, early 80s, there wasn't a lot of technology. There wasn't a lot of hope for for treatment at that time. So I felt blessed. I felt that I think after my 6 month a year checkup with my doctor, I was cancer free, and I felt like a burden had been lifted off of me, that I could
Mm,
finally sing, I could finally see the sunshine, I could finally stop weeping, um, and not feeling like, God had forsaken me, and I'm here alone and I've got to fight and I have these two small children that I'm responsible for. But it just seemed like things came together. I got a very good job to take care of my girls. My health was better than it had ever been, and things seemed to look up from there.
that's good. That's good. I wanted you to talk about that moment, the upside of things, because
Yes.
joy certainly does come in the morning, just like the word promises. So let's see. You said after the weeping, I've learned how to go on and how to not lean on what I see with my eyes, but what I seen in my spirit and what I see in the world. I have taken life's stings and rubbed them with the salve of God's lessons and learned from each experience. I am so grateful to be alive. I just thought that was a beautiful piece right there.
Thank you.
So in going through everything that you've been through, what would you say has been the most impactful lesson you have learned through it all?
Most impactful lesson I learned was to trust God in
I
everything.
can't hear you.
Was to trust God in
Okay.
everything.
Yeah.
And while going through that, it was very difficult to do because all you try not to see things with the natural eye and you try to
Mhm.
see things with the spiritual eye.
Mhm.
But I learned how to trust and just lean on him with
Yeah.
everything I had.
Mm, that's good. That's good. So today you said today I live unapologetically. I will never be a slave to my past. It was a stepping stone to a higher me. I have never chased the blessings. I chased the one who could give the blessings. I love that. Um, so I wanted to ask you, like, because you wrote about, such personal stuff, like what was this writing process like for you?
It was very, oh wow, it brought tears, it brought joy, it took me back to where I was in my younger years. And I began to reflect on, oh my gosh, I have really come a long way and I've really grown.
Mhm.
And God has continued to be a beacon in my life. And
Yeah,
there is no question as to what He has done in my life and what He continues to do
yeah,
for me.
nice, nice. So when you think about your chapter, what is it that you want people to take away from your chapter?
I want people to take away, um, especially those who may be going through domestic violence or fighting cancer or just going through some very difficult times, to take away that what you're going through does not define you.
Mm,
You are more than that, and you
yeah,
have someone that will take you through that. And if you can't walk it alone, he will carry you through that.
mm,
um, and that it can be done. It is a testimony to me to be able to share with other women
mhm,
what I've gone through and how
yeah,
I made it through. And so I want them
yeah,
to take away that whatever they're going through does not define them, and they
mhm,
can make it and they can hold their head up no matter what. I used to think that domestic violence was horrible, it was shameful, it was something that you could never get over, and you would never think that you would be in that situation.
mm,
But sometimes we find ourselves in those situations, but there's a way out. And that's what
yeah,
we have to look at, that way, looking for that way out and knowing that
yeah.
we'll be okay.
Yeah. Safety first. I always say safety first
Yes.
for you and
Yes.
your children when going through that. But, it's interesting that you said sometimes we just kind of find ourselves in those situations. And that's part of my testimony as well. But it's difficult. It can be difficult when you make that decision to walk away because like you said, sometimes you're walking out into the unknown, after being in a certain situation so long. And sometimes it's hard to figure that thing out. But like you said, like with prayer and God's guidance, there is a way. And so I'm happy that you wrote about that and you were vulnerable enough to share about that in your chapter, because I think that'll be helpful to a lot of women, like when they see someone who actually can stand up and walk away from it and then see that you're okay in doing so. So I thank you for sharing that part in your story, because I think that's powerful. It's a powerful message. So my question now is your question. So after the weeping, then what? What's the then what?
Then you come out a, you were once a shell, and you come out and you break out of that shell, and you
Yeah,
are the most courageous warrior of a woman that you can ever be. And
yeah,
it took courage, it took dedication,
mhm,
it took the will within you
mhm,
to make it through. It's not, it's not for the faint at heart. Sometimes you think, well, I'm going to faint, going through this, but you won't. If you trust God, you will not. It hurts for a while and you weep, weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. It may not come when you think it should come, but it's coming. And I can actually say that my latter years, God has given me so much, and blessed me with more than I could ever think. If he never does anything else,
Mm,
he's done so much for me, and I reflect on that. And I just love him for being who he is, and how he showed up and showed out in my life.
yeah. He should really did show off because you said you were diagnosed at the age of 20 with cancer.
Yes, I
Yeah,
was
and
diagnosed as
so
a child,
yeah.
and it was just kind of on a fluke. My doctor was out of town,
Uh,
and I went and saw another doctor, and I said, "Well, I just need this medication. I know what it is. Give me the medication." He says, "No, um, we need to do some other testing, just precautionary, because you had a baby 6 months ago and you haven't seen the doctor. Let's do this." And when he came back with cancer, I was just floored,
wow.
and just went into a depression, and
Mhm.
um, was hurt. I couldn't see past tomorrow, but I knew every time I looked in my children's eyes that I had to live, and I
Mm,
had to make it for them. And
yeah,
that's what kept me going. It really did. I cannot give up. I've got to fight.
yeah, yeah. We fight for our babies, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Wow, what a beautiful story. And you are what, 29? No, 39 years survivor
Yes,
now?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
That is
yes.
beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony
Oh, you're
in this
welcome.
book. Why did you say yes to this project?
Well, I've always wanted to write, but I never knew how to put it together.
Mm,
And it was always in the back of my mind, and it was always in my heart. And it was back there, and I said, "Oh, we're going to leave it back there." But when Dr. Tasheka asked me, I was like, I was a little bit intimidated, but I said, "You
yeah,
know what? Let me just tell my story and put it out
hmm,
there. Let me be a blessing to someone else who
yeah,
may need this."
yeah. Because our stories are never about us. Like everything that we
Yes,
have been through is not even about us. And once we understand that, it makes things a little bit more clear,
yes,
right?
definitely,
Well,
definitely.
thank you so much for being my special guest on this evening.
Oh, you're
And thank
welcome.
you for writing in the book, Women of Virtue, Walking in Excellence by visionary author Dr. Tasheka Green. You guys have done an amazing job with the book and with your chapters. So thank you again. And thank you for joining us for the broadcast.
You're welcome.
And to our viewing audience, thank you so much for joining us for another segment of the LPE Author Chat series. Take care, guys. And remember, if you're thinking about writing your own book, head on over to www.laboopublishing.com and connect with us there. Until next time, take care and be blessed.